You're good. You do the right thing. You give people the benefit of the doubt. You take the high road. And somehow you're the one who ends up used, overlooked, quietly hurt. You've noticed the pattern. And you've made your peace with it by deciding it means something flattering, that you're simply too pure for a world this harsh. I want to take that comfort away from you, carefully, because there's something true underneath it, but that story is costing you more than the world ever did. Here's what I'll give you instead. The line between the suffering that's actually noble and the suffering your own goodness is quietly arranging behind your back, and why a Russian novelist, who knew more about pain than almost anyone, looked at pure goodness and saw a tragedy, not a virtue. I carried my own suffering like a medal for years. The good one. Always getting the short end, always a little righteous about it, until I finally looked at what all that goodness was actually protecting me from having to do. Because there's a goodness that suffers for nothing, and a goodness that doesn't. And the difference between them is one specific thing that almost no one was ever taught to grow. That's the whole video. So before Dostoevsky takes this apart, one thing. This channel exists to tell the harder half of the truth, the half the feed skips. 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you'd rather grow a spine than collect grievances, subscribe, not for me, for the version of you that's done being noble and exhausted. And like this if the medal landed somewhere it wasn't supposed to. Now, the problem no one names. Let's start with the pattern you already know from the inside. You're the reliable one, the considerate one. You let the small slights go. You assume the best. You're the friend who drives across town, the one who covers, who forgives, who keeps the peace. And it doesn't come back to you. You watch louder, harder, more selfish people get the promotion, the respect, the love, and you're left holding a quiet ache and a question you don't say out loud. I did everything right. Why am I the one bleeding? And there's a story ready to catch you when you fall. It's a comforting one, and half the internet will sell it to you. The world is cruel, and good people are just too pure for it. Your suffering is proof of your goodness. The very fact that you keep getting hurt is the medal, evidence you're one of the rare decent ones in a rotten place. I lived inside that story for a long time. And I'll be honest, it feels wonderful. It turns every wound into a badge. Every time someone took advantage of me, I got to feel a little more saintly about it. I wasn't a pushover, I was pure. That's the deal the story offers, and it's a good one. Right up until you notice it never actually changes anything. You stay exactly as hurt as before. You just get to feel holy about it. But here's what finally stopped me. The strange thing was never that good people suffer. Everyone suffers. The strange thing is the specific kind of suffering and how much of it, when I looked honestly, I was arranging myself. Here's what I was arranging. A lot of what I was calling goodness wasn't goodness at all. It was avoidance, wearing goodness like a costume. Look at the moves honestly. I forgave people instantly, but not because I was big-hearted. Because forgiving them was easier than the terrifying conversation where I'd have to say you hurt me and watch their face change. I never saw the worst in anyone, but not because I was generous. Because if I let myself see it, I'd have to do something about it. And doing something meant conflict, and conflict was the one thing I'd organized my entire personality to avoid. I was endlessly, tirelessly nice, because a person who never says no, never pushes back, never takes up space, is a person who can never quite be rejected. That's the part that stings. This kind of goodness has no spine. And a goodness with no spine can't actually protect anything, not the people it claims to love, and not itself. It just absorbs. It takes the hit, and takes the next one, and calls the bruises virtue. I wasn't being good to people. I was being safe, at my own expense, and billing the world for the difference. And here's my least favorite thing I ever admitted. I used my own suffering as proof I was a good person. The wound was the evidence. Which means, on some level, I needed the wound. I was quietly invested in being wronged, because being wronged was how I knew I was one of the good ones. That's not goodness. That's a con, and I was running it on myself. But there's a name for this exact kind of goodness, and a novelist saw all the way to the bottom of it 150 years ago. The novelist was Fyodor Dostoevsky, and you should know what he'd survived before you take his word on suffering, because he didn't theorize it from a desk. As a young man, he was arrested, sentenced to death, and marched out to be shot. He stood in front of the firing squad, certain these were his final seconds, and only then, at the last possible moment, did a rider arrive with a reprieve. The whole execution had been staged. Then came years in a Siberian prison camp and epilepsy for the rest of his life. This is a man who knew precisely what the world does to a person. And in 1869 he set himself an almost impossible task. He wanted to write a truly good man, a positively beautiful human being, in his own words, and drop him into the real world to see what would happen. That character is Prince Myshkin in the novel The Idiot. Myshkin is pure kindness. He can't hold a grudge, can't manage cynicism, forgives everyone, meets every cruelty with gentleness, and the world destroys him. That's not me spoiling a twist, it's the entire point. Myshkin's goodness doesn't redeem the people around him. It can't protect the woman he loves. She dies anyway. His innocence makes things worse, because he never sees the danger coming and can't act in time. And by the end, this gentle, beautiful man is broken. His mind gone, silent, a ruin. Dostoevsky's verdict is brutal and clear. Pure, naive goodness, the kind with no eyes and no teeth, does not survive contact with reality. It suffers, and it fails everyone it was trying to love. And it isn't only in novels. There's a study I keep coming back to. Researchers found that the most agreeable men, the accommodating, conflict-avoidant nice guys, earn substantially less over a career than more disagreeable men. In their data, around 26% less. Now, be careful with that. The effect is much weaker for women, and it's measuring a personality trait, not whether you're a decent human being, so it's not ammunition for a war. But it points at something real. Pure agreeableness has a price, and the world collects it, in money, in respect, sometimes in a whole life. So Myshkin was never a hero to copy. He's a warning. And if that kind of goodness suffers for nothing, then what is the other kind, the goodness that doesn't get destroyed? It has one thing Myshkin never grew, one honest pause. I'm not holding the good part back. What real goodness actually looks like, the kind with teeth, is next, and I won't gate it. This video gives you the whole thing. But a slow, sourced take that refuses to just flatter good people doesn't do well out there. It survives outside the feed only because people fund it directly, not because an algorithm rewards it. If that's worth something to you, the Buy Me a Coffee link's in the description. Pay what you want, or nothing, and stay. Because the goodness Dostoevsky was actually pointing at is the exact opposite of the one that broke his prince, and it's the one thing that would have saved him. The one thing Myshkin never grew is the whole difference. Real goodness is not innocence, it's the opposite. Innocence is goodness that hasn't seen anything yet. Real goodness is what's left after you've seen all of it, the cruelty, the manipulation, exactly how people can use you, and you choose to be good anyway, with your eyes wide open. Sit with how different that is. Myshkin was good because he couldn't see the darkness. That's not virtue. That's just a blindfold with a nice smile. Real goodness sees the knife in someone's hand and doesn't pretend it's a flower. It can say no. It can confront. It forgives out of strength, as a choice, not out of terror of the conversation where it would have to say that wasn't okay. And here's the part the martyr story never tells you. Real goodness protects. It's the difference between the parent who lets a bully hurt their child because they don't want to make a scene and the one who steps in. Only one of those is actually kind. The other one is just conflict avoidance dressed up as grace. I made a whole video on kindness that's really fear with good manners. This is that same idea, taken all the way to its tragic end. Dostoevsky's beautiful prince wasn't cruel. He was that exact fear-shaped goodness, the nice with no spine, followed to the point where it destroys the very people it loves. So the word you're missing isn't kinder. You've got kindness in abundance. What you're missing is a spine to put behind it. Because here's the reframe that changes everything. Dostoevsky was never saying don't be good. He was saying goodness without wisdom, without teeth, without the courage to see and to act. That's not a higher form of good. It's a tragedy. The price of goodness is real, and it's worth paying, but only if the goodness is real. Paying that price for a blindfold is just self-harm you get to feel holy about. So what does goodness with a spine actually look like on an ordinary Tuesday when no one's writing a novel about you? It's smaller and quieter than the word spine makes it sound. No dramatic confrontations, just goodness that keeps its eyes open in a handful of ordinary moments. It looks like forgiving someone and keeping the boundary anyway. Those aren't opposites. That's the thing no one teaches you. You can genuinely wish someone well and still not give them another chance to do the same damage. I forgive you, and you're not coming back into my life can be the same sentence, said by the same kind person. The martyr thinks forgiveness means dropping the boundary. It doesn't. That's just the blindfold going back on. It looks like being generous and being able to say no. Real giving needs a real no behind it. Or it isn't giving, it's just an inability to refuse, and everyone can feel the difference. It looks like seeing the harm someone's doing clearly, naming it to yourself instead of explaining it away, and not pretending everything's fine to keep the peace. Because the peace you keep by lying about what you see isn't peace. It's just a slower kind of damage, and you're the one absorbing it. None of this is a program, and if you turn it into one, a checklist for being assertively good, you've missed it, because that's just the nice person performing a spine instead of growing one. It's a test you run in the moment. Is this goodness with its eyes open, or is it fear I've dressed up as virtue again? So once you can actually tell the two apart, the real question stops being whether to be good. You already are. It becomes whether your goodness has the nerve to be real. So I'm not going to hand you a plan to toughen up. 10 ways to stop being a doormat would just be the same fear, flipped, performing hardness instead of performing softness. Both are still a performance. Both still have no spine. Here's the only thing. Take the last time you suffered for being good. The last time you were the one left hurt after doing the decent thing, and look at it without the medal on. Ask, honestly, was that goodness, clear-eyed, chosen, protecting something that mattered? Or was it fear and naivety, wearing goodness so you wouldn't have to see it? You'll know. The honest answer arrives fast, and it usually isn't the flattering one. Keep the goodness that sees. That part of you is real, and the world genuinely needs it. Clear-eyed, kind people are rare, and they hold things together. But put down the martyrdom. Put down the quiet addiction to being wronged, the suffering you stage for an applause you won't admit you're waiting for. You don't have to become hard. Please don't. Hardness is just Myshkin's disease running the other direction, cruelty pretending it's honesty. Real goodness still cares, still forgives, still gives. It just refuses to do it blind. You already suspected all of this. Some part of you has known for a while that the wound wasn't proof of your virtue. It was proof you never grew the eyes to see it coming or the spine to stop it. The question was never whether you're good enough. It's whether you're finally willing to be good with your eyes open. If this pulled your suffering down off its pedestal and made you look at it straight, no medal, no halo, then it did what it came to do, and I'm not going to soften that on the way out. Here's the reinforcement from a different side than the money. Work that refuses to flatter you only lasts if the people it reaches decide it should. The version that tells good people they're just too pure for this world, that one spreads on its own because it feels good. This isn't that, and it costs something to keep making. If it's worth keeping, the link's in the description. Fuel, not charity. And in the comments, one honest line, the kind this whole video was asking for. The last time you took the high road, be straight about it. Was that strength, or was it fear you'd rather not name? Write the real answer, not the noble one. Then send this to the kindest person you know who keeps getting crushed. The one who needs a spine more than another compliment. I'll be back Monday, same time, same refusal to comfort you into staying asleep.